I the jerk for shouting at my friend for showing off with my child? I have a friend group of 5 women, including myself. 4 of us, including me, have children, with my 5-week-old son being the youngest. The 5th friend, Emily, doesn't have children. Emily works in a daycare center and has been working there for over 10 years. Nowadays, she mainly does administrative work but sometimes covers shifts if someone is sick. So she has a lot of experience with children even though she doesn't have any herself. The problem with Emily is that she likes to make it known how good she is with children. So whenever we spend time together as a group with our children, she acts like she knows best when it comes to children. For example, if a child is having a tantrum, she will insert herself into the situation instead of letting the mom take care of it. Or if a child is doing something it shouldn't, like eating too much candy, Emily will tell the child, "Don't listen to mommy. Auntie Emily says it's fine." She also does this at bigger gatherings, showing off her superior skills with children while making us look like we don't know anything. I've talked about this with the other moms, and they find it annoying as well. We thought about saying something, but we agreed that taking care of children is such a big part of Emily's identity that it would really hurt her. On to the problem at hand. A couple of days ago, we were hanging out again. Emily asked if she could hold my son, and I said yes. A little later, the baby started to cry. I went over and tried to take him back. Emily wouldn't let me and kept saying she knows how to do it and tried rocking the baby. I knew my son was hungry, so no amount of rocking was going to stop him from crying. I asked Emily again to give me the baby, and she again refused. I was getting upset and asked again, but she just kept saying that she knows how to take care of a baby. I said I know, but I need to take my baby. I was about to blow, but she had my son in her arms, so I didn't want to upset her. Suddenly she tried to take the baby to the other room, but I stopped her and almost forcefully took my son from her. I was seething, and once I had set my son down, I let it all out. I shouted at her that she has no right to keep me from my child and that even with all her experience, she can't override me when it comes to my child. I also told her that I'm sick of her trying to show off her skills using my child. She was really upset and left shortly after. I don't think anything I said was wrong, but am I the asshole for shouting at her? My friends think it's something she needed to hear, but going off on her like that might have been too much. In my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here. You should never need to repeat the phrase, "Give me back my baby." Once is enough, and if she tries to resist, she clearly doesn't know anything about looking after children. Not only was she ignoring you, but she also tried to remove your child from your presence. Emily has issues, and personally, I believe it would be best to avoid letting her hold any children again. Am I the jerk for never telling my mother that I married into money? I, 34 years old female, have a difficult relationship with my mother. She had me when she was 17 years old and was addicted to various substances when I was growing up. She would leave me with whoever would watch me for days on end, and I ended up mostly raising myself. I left home at 16 and couch surfed with various friends until I was able to get my own place. Last year, my mother reached out to me after a decade of not speaking to her, wanting to reconnect and introduce me to my little sister, who was 2 years old. I was confused as I hadn't even known she'd been pregnant, but it seems she'd been a change of life baby. I thought maybe she'd turned over a new leaf, and if not, I wanted to make sure the kid was okay. At first, it seemed like things had changed, and she was trying. This illusion lasted for the first few visits over 6 months. Then she broke down, told me she couldn't do this, and asked me to take my sister. My husband and I had a long talk about it. We'd been struggling with fertility and had been considering adoption anyway. We told her if we were doing this, we were doing it right, and we had his family's lawyer ensure it was a legal adoption and airtight, which took several months. My in-laws adore her and consider her their granddaughter. They've even set up a trust fund for her. We have allowed my mother one supervised visit per month, so she's not totally cut off from my sister. But it was during these visits things went badly as she saw how she was dressed and the toys she had and realized they were expensive. She began to rip into us for hiding the fact that we have money and how if we'd just given her money, she'd have not given us my sister as she could have taken care of her better. I told her that while we have some money, it's mostly my husband's parents' money, not ours, so she had no right to know about it. I also told her that I wouldn't have given her money anyway, as I didn't trust her. She broke down, calling me a selfish person who'd never considered how hard things were for her. I now feel some guilt. My husband has told me that if I want to make myself feel better, he'll give her money. But that seems like a bad idea as she'd likely use it badly or blow through it, and then expect more. Despite this though, I do feel bad. Maybe I should have tried to help her more now that my luck is better, or maybe I should have been honest with her. Am I the asshole for keeping this from her? You did nothing wrong here. If your husband wants to pay for something, it should be a treatment program for mom to get the help she needs. Mom is trying to manipulate you, and if you give her even a penny, she'll keep coming back for more. Focus on your family and your happiness, otherwise, she'll bleed you dry. Am I the jerk for refusing to split the cost of a surprise trip for my birthday after we broke up? Recently, I had a major falling out with James. The conflict arose when our mutual friend Jane divorced our other friend Dan upon discovering his affair. Our friend group became divided when Jane found out that some members were aware of Dan's affair, but chose to remain silent. I was unaware of the affair and was upset to learn that James had kept it a secret out of loyalty to Dan. His lack of morals and genuine confusion about why Jane no longer wants to be friends with him or why I'm upset about his actions led to our breakup. James fails to comprehend why I consider this a significant issue, and for weeks after the breakup, he pleaded with me to reconsider. The situation within our friend group became awkward following the split between Adam and Jane, resulting in the group dividing into two factions. Consequently, the group has shrunk since my split with James. Subsequently, James went silent before contacting me to discuss sorting out our shared expenses. James visits me once a month for a weekend or a few days since my job restricts my ability to visit him. Given the expensive nature of plane tickets, we usually split the cost, with me covering more. James had planned a surprise visit for my upcoming birthday and purchased tickets for a week-long trip. He now expects me to reimburse him for the tickets based on our usual proportion of expenses. However, I find this unfair since he bought the tickets even though we are no longer together. When he called me about this, he was upset as the tickets are non-refundable and non-exchangeable. Furthermore, if he decides to use them, he would have no place to stay as I am unwilling to accommodate him due to our current situation. While I am contemplating paying to maintain peace, especially since our friend group has been strained, my sister suggests blocking him and seeking new friends in my area. Financially, I am capable of covering the cost, understanding the expense these tickets represent for James. Nothing you have done here makes me think you are the jerk. You broke up, you don't owe James anything. Buying non-exchangeable tickets for a surprise trip is a risk in any case, and it's not your problem to solve. It's gross that Dan expected everyone to keep the affair a secret, and it's sad that James didn't share your morals. Am I the jerk for sending a price sheet to my family after not being invited to my half-sister's wedding? I am a 22-year-old female who is a full-time baker for a small business and a college student. I moved back to my home state in September of 2023, mostly to get away from my toxic family and for better opportunities. My brother Jay, 25-year-old male, and I are the black sheep of the family, mostly due to the fact that we were born and mostly raised outside of marriage. The teasing and neglect only grew worse after our mother married Jerkfish and had our half-siblings, a 20-year-old female, a 17-year-old male, a 16-year-old male, and an 11-year-old male. Now, here's the dilemma. My half-sister, who we will call Jojo, 20-year-old female, is getting married to Rit, 22-year-old male, in July. My mom and grandma asked me to make them a wedding cake, which I would have happily agreed to if I was invited to the wedding. The thing is, they wanted me to make a cake fit for 200 people, stay at a hotel near them, work for 3 days, and book a flight there and back. I would have to cover all the expenses, as they believed it would be a nice gift to my sister. I simply chuckled and sent them my price sheet. They flipped out. I was bombarded with texts about how selfish and vile I am, how I am toxic for expecting my family to pay for my cake when they could just go to Walmart to get one, and so on. And so on. Jojo even messaged me on Discord a week after I had sent the price sheet and asked why I would charge her when I made my best friend a free wedding cake. I responded by telling her off, as not only was I not invited to her wedding, but I was the maid of honor at my best friend's wedding. And in a way, it was a way of returning the favor for being a genuinely good friend and helping me out when I was going through a lot. Jay and his wife mentioned that I am not wrong for my actions, and they would have done the same thing. My boyfriend is also on my side. However, a few people in my life are saying I should have simply declined instead of sending the price sheet, and that my response to my sister was too harsh. Am I the a-hole? So, you're too evil to be invited to the wedding, but not too evil to gift them a cake worth several hundred or $1,000? Isn't that something? And on top of that, you're supposed to pay for the privilege, including airfare and hotel. They're lucky that all you sent was a price sheet. Someone else might have sent them some strong words enclosed in an envelope with folding and insertion instructions. I guess it's a Walmart cake for the wedding. Am I the jerk for refusing to tell my parents' other kids that I won't be going on vacation with them? I am a 16-year-old male being raised by my maternal grandparents. After my mom passed away, my dad decided he needed to get away and left me with them. We had all lived with my grandparents before that, so it wasn't a huge change, but I missed my dad. I was only 5 years old when it all happened. 3 years later, he came back and he was engaged, and he wanted me to be a family with him and Sandy. He and my grandparents fought in court over me because my grandparents were my legal guardians. Reunification therapy was ordered for the two of us, and the courts allowed him to see me for 1 weekend a month initially. The reunification therapy did not go as intended, so it was decided that my grandparents would retain custody of me, and he would have visitation every other weekend. He was also granted 1 week of vacation every summer until I turned 16. My dad and Sandy have children together, and my dad has tried to get me to want to be a part of their family. He knows I do not want to be part of his family. He is aware that I see going to his house as a chore, and I have not hidden that from him. However, my dad and Sandy assumed I would be going on vacation with them this year, and it's not happening. When I informed them, it became a huge deal, and my dad and Sandy were upset because they had told their children I would be going. The last weekend I was there, the children were expressing their desire for us to go on a water slide together. Sandy suggested that I could go for the sake of the children, and I questioned why I should do that. She then said that I should be the one to tell them since it would make them sad. I replied that they were the ones who assumed and did not ask, so I was not going to do their parenting for them. My dad asked me to reconsider, expressing that he feels like he's losing me and that these next 2 years will be significant for our relationship in the future. I told him he lost me 11 years ago. Both Sandy and my dad are now upset with me for not telling the children myself. They said I should grow up, take accountability, and protect my innocent siblings. Am I the asshole? In my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here. It's definitely not your job to tell their children anything. That's their responsibility as parents. Your dad and Sandy are being manipulative by trying to make you cave. If they are decent parents, they will handle it without causing damage to their kids. Am I the jerk for not letting my neighbors use my backyard? My partner and I just got some new neighbors. They moved in about a month ago. We met them briefly. They are a couple around our age and have a daughter and a dog. We have our backyard fully fenced in with a privacy fence. Their yard doesn't have one. I was out front last weekend when the couple came up our driveway and started chatting. They mentioned that they were on a waiting list to get their yard fenced in, but were told it would be a few months. They said they would really like their daughter and dog to have a place to run around, but didn't feel comfortable with the lack of a fence. Our neighborhood backs up to a wooded area and a creek. They asked if they could borrow our backyard for a few hours a day so they could let everyone run worry-free. I admittedly immediately didn't like this, but I told them I would think about it. I talked to my partner, and we both agreed this wasn't a good idea. We have 2 dogs ourselves, and they can be a tad protective of their yard. One of them also doesn't love kids, and the other one can be a tad dog selective. Because of this, we would have to coordinate when we could let our dogs out, and that's just not something we want to deal with. There are just too many things that could go wrong. Plus, that good old American worry that if someone got hurt, we could get sued. The guy stopped by again on Wednesday and asked if we had given it any thought. I told him we had discussed it, and unfortunately, it just wasn't going to work out with our dogs and their schedule, so we wouldn't be able to accommodate them. He immediately got sour and said it was nice to know how neighborly we were. He left abruptly, but I could hear him muttering under his breath. He and his wife have made a big show of snubbing us the last couple of days. My partner said they will get over it, and while I'm not going to reconsider, I do feel kind of guilty. Am I the jerk for not letting our new neighbors use our yard? I think you are not in the wrong here. It's a hard no to borrowing your yard for a few months. Your neighbor's request was ridiculous. They should supervise their dog and child like responsible pet owners and parents. They put you in a very odd position, and who has ever heard of a waiting list for a fence? Point them to the nearest park instead. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.